And that's one of the first questions I generally ask of dealerships before we throw the proverbial switch is, can you handle the extra business?
You can see me, right? We're all,
Can see you fine.
all right. We got no echo. Hey, Danny, can you?
Hello. Hello.
All right. I think this is all working. Everybody can hear each other. Okay. Oof. Sorry about that. That took way too long to figure out all of the microphone and stuff.
Yeah, anytime there's a new platform or something like that, I always make sure I jump on like 15 minutes early just to make sure that.
Yeah, just to be like, oh, yeah, we do software, but it's sometimes a pain in the ass, turns out. Software. It's actually,
Sounds like my conversation with Lightspeed.
yeah, either that or it's where software meets hardware, like printers. Like
Oh,
Dean
yeah.
and I always make this joke that our most important job as a service manager was to fix all the printers that
Yeah.
constantly break and go wrong.
At least 30% of the job as a dealer operator is fixing printers. Or at least it was that way 15 years ago.
I highly doubt it's gotten much better. I haven't fixed
Or
it.
people using printers.
There you go. Problem solved. Just get rid of the thing. There's that podcasting software is also just as difficult. Instead of turn it off and back on. All right, Mike. Dude, I have not been able to tell Danny the info yet from MRAA. So
Did y'all have a good time without me?
we did.
In spite of you not being there, Danny, we had a good time.
That took too long to answer. It was fun. It was a good time. Especially the like big dinner that they do. Like every association event, there's always like an industry party or industry thing that happened. We went down. Yeah, we did some good cocktails and did all this. And then at the end of it, of course, it turns into like a bunch of dealers racing Lime scooters down to the next spot and like trying not to die in the trolley tracks that cross them. So fortunately, nobody ate it, which is really good. But Mike missed that.
Were there a line of people waiting?
I purposely tapped out. I saw the drunken Lime scooter racing out.
It does.
I stepped into a Suburban and it was on my way.
You did. You seemed very important. You were like, I took a black car back home. It was really good, but whatever. The best part of being a dealer is the meetings. I mean, that's the most fun part of the whole thing. So
they all looked like they were having fun.
Yes.
I remember my first beer.
It was great, though. It was really great. So, man, we spent 2 days there. MRAA, for anybody who isn't in the marine industry, stands for Marine Retail Association of America. And every year they have an event called Dealer Week. I have spoken at Dealer Week for the past 5 years, which is pretty cool. I had to count those up last time. So it does fly. You know, it's interesting. Danny and I spend a lot of our time, and Mike, you spend a lot of your time in power sports. And the problems that happen in marine and the processes and the strategy and all the stuff that goes on is actually, it's pretty identical. It's just they have more zeros than the power sports industry does. So that's like the big difference between the two. But there's always a lot to learn from each of them. One thing I thought was interesting, and I want your take on it afterwards too. One thing that stands out different from marine and power or power sports is there's a lot more. I feel like there's a lot more software, not necessarily just software solutions, but like DMSs. There's like a ton of little tiny DMSs that are fragmented. What was your take on that?
That was my biggest aha moment. You know, in the automotive world, I think there's two obviously that are the 800-pound gorillas, Reynolds and CDK. And then, you know, I think there's a bunch more that are popping up. Power sports, again, dominated by Lightspeed, DX1, but, you know, really only maybe 3 or 4 main ones that we deal with. I was shocked at the amount of DMS systems that were out there. I was talking to my CTO, Jeff, and there's got to be 10 to 15 DMS systems out here for power sports, which is actually a good thing. I think having a lot of options and seeing new technology come to market is good for everybody.
Yeah.
Is it full-fledged DMSs, or is it, because, you know, in the auto space, there's so many, you know, independent shop, you know, little offerings, Shop Monkey, Techmetric, whatever, but, you know, they're not as robust.
Yeah, they're integrating with other accounting software.
Like is DocMaster one of the ones y'all are talking about?
DocMaster.
Like, is that a full-fledged DMS?
Yeah,
probably should know that.
It operates like a full-fledged DMS. I'm pretty sure that uses QuickBooks. So I don't think it does its own accounting. I could be wrong in that.
It's the way I like it.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually kind of nice. And then there's some other ones like Team Marine. Team Marine is one that's there. That's a smaller thing, but like it's entirely built on Salesforce. And so there's a smaller group of dealers on it. But what's really interesting, what I appreciated about it is that when there's actually that many different types of like options out there, everybody has their own interpretation on how it should work. Like Team Marine Scheduler is very different than Lightspeed Scheduler was. And I watched the demo, and Trent, who works with Team Marine's a buddy of mine too, and he's kind of going through what it does. And it's a really like a new creative way of looking at the schedule in a different way than Lightspeed did or anybody else does. And that was just really cool to be like, oh, there's 10 different offerings here and all of them do it slightly differently. And it's the first time that, you're kind of recognizing that the software, as I mentioned previously, the software dictates the process, which dictates the customer experience. And the customer experience can be different because of that different software, because it's kind of forcing it that way. So it was cool to see that it's not as like cookie cutter in marine as we see across power sports. And that was kind of inspiring.
And I think the one thing that you and I were talking about is the fact that a lot of these newer DMS systems were built from the dealer level around specific business challenges or business conditions. So to see that coming from a specific need or challenge that dealers are facing, I think it's a good thing.
At least that's what I think it was. Because you were like, why are there so many DMSs? And I'm like, well, I'm going to guess real quick, but maybe it's because, when there's that many more zeros in your operation and you realize that the thing that's holding you back are your tools, like, then maybe you have more money to throw at developing the right tools to run the operation in the way that you need to run it.
Absolutely.
So that's why basically stores build their own little tools, and then that little tool ends up getting a smaller market share, which does feel like what's happened. Like that there's no Lightspeed's still the big player in that space, but and G2 and a couple others that are like pretty big players, but it's still like more fragmented than our industry is, which from a standpoint, like what you're doing is a little more complicated because it doesn't just mean connecting with one DMS to pull data. It's like, all right, we got to pull API integrations or pull data from different things, which is possible. It's just a little more work.
Should probably get into what Mike does.
Oh, yeah. What is it you say you do, Mike?
So we work with, primarily we've been working with power sports manufacturers, dealers, dealer groups. We have a handful of automotive stores, and a few of our power sports dealerships have marine and boat dealers as well. So we work with them to manage their data, and from the management of their data, it tells a story. Tells a story of what's going on. And with that information, we help them better communicate to their customers. We can help them better retain their existing customers, win back lost customers, and also help find new customers for them. And the great thing about that, with their data, we can measurably track how well we're doing and how well they're doing.
Yeah.
It really is remarkable, the data analysis and the way that y'all at CRC use it. I don't know if you feel this. I feel like a lot of people might look at y'all as just a direct mailing company, and that's just the furthest thing from the truth.
I mean, you do that.
Yeah, you do that, and
That
it's
is an
phenomenal. I mean, just the dashboard and the insights that y'all bring to a dealership's customer base is just far beyond anything we've seen in the space.
Yeah.
Sure.
Wow.
The gentleman that I worked for years, huge influence, big mentor for me. And he always said that the easiest thing to do was just put ink on paper or put an email together. That is actually the end result of all the work that goes into before what we do.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that, that we're telling the right story, that we're talking to the right people at the right time. Otherwise it becomes white noise, and you can look at the results of what you're doing and tell that either is this resonating with the people that we're talking to, or are people tuning out?
Yeah.
And, luckily with a lot of what we do, especially with email marketing, you can see the results and see the effectiveness, because we're looking at open and read rates of emails that are pushing 70-75%, which is ridiculously high. When we first started looking at the open and read rates of some of our programs, I had Jeff, my CTO, go back and look at it again. I'm like, this can't be that good.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it is. And it speaks to, I think, the power sports and marine industry. They're a lot more passionate. They're enthusiasts, so they're more engaged with their dealerships, and the dealerships have great relationships. But It's a lot of it goes down to all that science behind what we do to make sure that we're targeting the right people, and that we do a lot of data hygiene to make sure that the people that we're targeting, it's a clean, very efficient list.
Well, I mean, the open rate is phenomenal, but I think is great is that you don't stop there. You can see of those people that open, the ones that came in and did business with you because they got this marketing. It really is like end to end.
Yeah. See, sure. I want to back up to make sure that the listeners understand. I don't know if we got too much into the weeds of what it is we're already doing.
It's just so exciting.
It is really exciting. So, at MRAA, I was able to speak about lifecycle management, right? And like that was the whole concept. And I was able to take some time. I didn't even tell you I changed a lot of the presentation right before I gave it.
Oh, sweet.
Which is fun. But it was like kind of updating more information because when I wrote the presentation, we hadn't done the turnaround yet. We hadn't been working with the store. So I wanted to kind of explain that a lot of what we had been working on the last 3 years was this theory of, okay, what would it look like if we could individually market to every single customer at the perfect unique moment? And we built this tool and this concept and all this training material around the idea that if you give this content, the dates and the script, like I give you who you need to call on what day and what to talk about, then we could perfectly manage each individual customer's message to make it relevant to owning a motorcycle for 6 months, or make it relevant for you've owned it for 3.5 years. It's time to trade it. So like, how do you make sure that happens every time? I will admit now, naively thought we could come into the store and tell the staff here, cool, man, you just got to keep in touch with your customers. Like just do the thing. And this is the thing. And like every day, it just tells you which customers to call and what to say and how we're going to bring them back. Turns out I was very naive because we came in and I realized like, it's not just that it's not possible for the staff to keep up with. It was like, there's a lot more things on fire right now to save this place. But we also knew how important it was to re-engage the customers that hadn't been engaged. And thank God, Mike found out about the turnaround going on at the LinkedIn posts, reached out to me, goes, hey, I think our ideas kind of gel pretty well. And so we started talking about like, okay, wait, you're also pulling data and figuring out life cycles and doing this. And you've done it for like decades at this point. Like, how have I not known about this as an opportunity? And then we basically handed over the reins and said, here you go. Start contacting every single one of our customers, which turned out to be a third of our database gets touched in some way every single month, which sounds like almost too much contact. But when you think about it, it means that we are contacting, or really Mike on the behalf of this dealership is contacting a relevant message to every customer every 3 months, 4 touches a year, just to stay ahead of them, stay relevant, talk about things that are important to them. And so that's what CRC does, right? And more.
Yeah, and a lot more. But I mean, I think that's it in a nutshell. And it's a third of the database, but it's each one of those people is different based on what they're going through, and the messaging and what you're going to say is going to be different from a customer that just bought a bike to somebody that we haven't seen in a year and a half. The wording is going to be different. The messaging is going to be different.
Yeah, that you were able to say like, hey, here's what I think. Here's like what we usually are sending in the messaging and like the schedule and the multiple interactions and at what times. And then we were able to like customize that for exactly what we want to do with Onyx stores. So it's like, if there's a store out there that's like, all right, whatever the Onyx cadence is, do that. You're like, cool, connect data, boom, it's starting to happen. Like it's literally that fast, which was crazy. And the results ended up being incredibly fast as well, which I'll get to the results later. I want to come back to mentioning that you've done this for decades. Can you tell us a little bit about like your history in auto? How do you make the switch over to power sports? Like what does that look like?
So I kind of bounced around automotive for several years, automotive and power sports. I worked mostly on the service side, the after sales side, at independent repair shops, franchised automotive stores, franchised power sports stores, and just woke up one day and say, you know what, I just need to get outside of the dealership world, going into the same building every day. More of just my personality and ADD, that I wanted different challenges, and started to work for a company in 2007 that was a mid-sized fish in the automotive marketing world. Really great company, founder run, really concentrated on doing the right thing for the customers. It was a great experience, probably the absolute perfect landing spot for me to land as, my first experience in direct marketing to customers from the dealership aspect of it. And it was a wonderful experience. We had some great partners, BMW North America. Within that, we had BMW, Motorrad, Mini, Rolls-Royce, Kia, Lexus, Porsche. And then in 2017, we went through a merger acquisition and went from being a founder-run company to a board-run company. And it was a startling change of atmosphere and culture that, it was a real wake-up call. And I thought that, this was my end, that I was going to retire with this company. And, it just wasn't the culture that I was looking for. And I was fortunate enough to grab a few people I knew and trusted really well within the company and founded CRC in 2020 with really the idea to be that smaller, more nimble, niche market, concierge type marketing company for dealerships. And there's a lot of consolidation in the market where you're having these bigger companies come in, they're getting the manufacturer agreement, and they're servicing the manufacturers more than they're servicing the dealerships. So, the dealers are finding themselves, okay, you have to work with XYZ company. And the first and last time they see somebody from that company is when they sign up and when they're canceling. And, the company is trying to save the deal. So, when we started out, we didn't have the horsepower, didn't have the tools, didn't have the technology, but our motto was outwork everyone else and over service our customers. And within a year, we won the Motorrad program for their retention program, and it just took off from there. So it's been a really, really cool ride. Just in the last week, we've had 3 new dealerships outside of Motorrad pop up just from referrals from 20 groups or employees going to different places. So I think it speaks to the fact that customer service support, being an advocate for your stores, that stewardship we bring to the table, it really ended my week on a strong note that what we were doing resonates and is important to customers.
Yeah. You call yourself a marketing company, and me just being, again, more naive than anything else. I often think of marketing companies as when we hire one for the store, it's like, all right, cool, you're going to run my social. You're going to do my, advertising when I'm going to put up a billboard. Not that a lot of people do billboards, but I guess they do. Some do. I don't. Really, when you think about other industries and you think about what does a CMO, a chief marketing officer, do? Their biggest thing now isn't like, oh, it's just the ad that we're running, or we're just going to blanket this out. We're just putting a Google ad out there as much as we possibly can. It is quite literally like individual customer life cycle. How do we handle the interactions with an individual? It's crazy that is what marketing is now. And our industry hadn't done that. And you're the first instance that I know of in our industry that's actually doing exactly that, where we say, we want to talk to individual people, not the masses. When you just blanket the message to everybody and you say, okay, every single person is just going to find out about my promo right now, or this bike that's on a really cheap deal, that doesn't apply to most of the people that are hearing the message. So then the messaging that you send starts becoming just background noise to them. So how do you keep the message relevant to an individual? And it's just so cool that, first off, you guys are doing it. Second, that you have experience having done it in auto and seen the success of it. And now you get to go oh, this industry that is just dipping its toe into it, we can kind of run.
Well, and Mike,
I'm constantly reminded that,
what you were talking about with a billboard or radio spots or whatever, you just, can't really that.
You never know. You can ask somebody, did you see our billboard?
Mike being, directly hooked into a DMS, he can pinpoint exactly and say, because of us, you got this, and this.
Yeah. Last week, was it 31%? 31% of all of our repair orders last week were directly attributed to the campaigns that went directly to those consumers. And you could see this customer hadn't been in 1,100 days. They sent out a message to him. Within a few days, that guy was in for service. And it was like, oh, not only did you show us that, you showed us here's how much profit came in because of that deal. And it was like, oh, okay. How much was your bill, Mike? Okay, I already paid for it. Sweet. That was easy.
I think that one customer probably paid for the store's marketing for the month.
Yeah, for at least a month, maybe a couple months at this point.
Probably.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's cool to see, a lot of the things that you try to do in a store, be it training people up or changing a process or stuff, you don't see the results for a very, very long time. Like you're taking this gamble and it's months or a year before you look back and you go, was that a good gamble or not? And this was literally, you're like, all right, let's connect the data. You pulled in the data, started sending out emails, and it was like, oh, there's a result. And you're like, whoa. So really cool. And so we've only been live for how long have we?
Maybe 2 months, if that. I think the retention program just launched maybe a few weeks ago.
Yeah, retention. And then I think the coolest thing that you made, which is now, and it's going to be an integral part of the lab, is internal is a CSI and CSI that is not based on an OEM having hold back money where I'm trying to gamify the whole thing so I can get my money out of it. It's like a CSI for us to simply know, did the change we made last week, is it starting to show up? Is it making customer experience better? So we can say, we did this in the lab, it led to profit. We did this in the lab, it led to customer experience, which led to profit. Like that's what we're trying to draw these correlations with. And it's so cool that since you're pulling the data right out of our systems, you know who to contact, when to contact them, how much profitability was, how important that experience was for them. It's cool.
Yeah. And so far, the response from your customers has been great. They went above and beyond and took the time to fill those surveys out and had nothing but praise.
Yeah.
So, that's good. And I'm sure that, there'll be ones that aren't going to be as effusive in their praise for you. And that's good too, that they're learning opportunities.
That's it. I know when you sent those first couple of reviews that came in, I'm like, damn it, they're all good. Like I was really hoping we would be able to start off somewhere where I'm like, all right, this made it better. So now everything we do is only going to make it worse from here.
Yeah, right. That's the first thing I usually do when we're running surveys is I'll grab my cup of coffee in the morning and read store surveys to see what kind of interesting things come up. And it's some pretty good rating, but unfortunately you guys are great. And there wasn't really anything salacious to read.
Don't want to hear that yet. This is the beginning of the lab. The lab only does more experiments. So, okay, tell me more about the tracking of customers. So you pull data out of the DMS and then you got to identify where in their life cycle, if they actually came in for service. What does that look like for you guys?
That's the bread and butter of what we do. And it's funny because I come from more of a sales background, marketing background. And Jeff Levine, who is the co-founder of the company and really the brains behind the company, lives and breathes data and really has, funny enough, turned me into a data geek that I get stoked about it now.
Yeah.
So, from a data standpoint, and you and I were talking about this last couple of days, it's amazing how it tells a story. And that once you start playing in that world, it's like looking into the matrix and you can see things from a number standpoint that tell a story. And it really is the start of the conversation. So we can look at retention numbers. How often are people coming back? When's the last time they came back? Looking at numbers of retention by model year to see how well we're doing at retaining bikes that are out of warranty, because we know if somebody has a warranty, they're not going to go to an independent shop. They're not going to do it themselves. They're going to bring it into the dealership. But, if they have the opportunity to take it somewhere else or work on it themselves, but yet they're still bringing it into the shop and letting you work on it, that's a tremendous opportunity for you. And it speaks volumes that regardless of other opportunities or options, they're bringing it to you. And we're going to see that if those bikes are going to be the most profitable for you because they're going to need more work. They're not warranty. We can see, one of the big key points we look at is sales to service retention. So of the units that you're putting in operation, how many are coming back for that first service? If just like in the automotive world, if they don't come in for their first service, second service, you haven't earned the right for the timing belt jobs, the brake jobs, the tires. They're gone and they're out lost to the wilderness. And, as the key to retention and keeping those customers back for service is it just enhances your opportunities to sell them that next bike.
Yeah.
If they're coming in, dropping their bike off for service, they're walking around your showroom, they're talking to your staff, it's I think the stat is 8 times more expensive to sell a new unit to a customer that you've never done business to versus an existing customer. So the better we can retain those customers and keep them come back to the store, it's just going to make your business as a whole that much more healthy and profitable.
Well, I mean, if only 3% of the population rides the things that we sell in power sports, and Marine's not far off of that number either, we should probably not lose them. We probably should not stop talking to those people because they're the ones that have been buying from us and will continue to buy. So the idea that we always focus, or a lot of us focus our business on just moving the metal, is crazy. I mean, this is about people joining a lifestyle. And how are they going to stay in a lifestyle if we don't keep them excited about being in the lifestyle with us? We got to keep them in it. So, okay, you mentioned measuring some things and being able to show your first service retention, or being able to show, I don't know, your loss rates and all that kind of stuff. You have a phenomenal platform, and the way that you can start to digest the data, like the data that seems really valuable, or is really valuable in my eyes, is there's never been a way for us to visualize your customer base, like to understand when do people come in, when do they not come in, when are we losing people, where does their profit come in based on model year. So like you mentioned this earlier, like, okay, you got 2 years of model year where it looks like on the graph, for the most part, at least my interpretation was, the warranty labor dollars end up being higher in many cases than the customer pay labor dollars. And then 2 years after that model year, that number starts to flip and you see this bigger increase in customer pay. So that immediately was like, oh my God, we need our customers from our customers who bought 3.5, 4 years ago. They have to be back in here, because not only are they profitable opportunities, they're trade opportunities. And it was like, who are those customers? And then you could just tell me. Like, it's so cool. It's such a great view into the most important part that is least understood in our.
Exactly. And the ability to look at those people and identify them. And then again, these parts just asking for that business. And I think within the industry, people haven't traditionally asked for the business from those people. 4, 5, 6-year-old bikes, and they're getting more complicated. It's going to be harder and harder for people to work on them. But they're still going to be worth a decent amount of money. And then the repairers, as we saw, the retention by model year goes down, but the value of those bikes when they come in to the store just goes up exponentially. So, that's the sweet spot of just talking to those people, telling your story, all the great things that you guys do at the store, building it to be a destination. People need to know that and appreciate it. And a lot of it is just asking for the business.
Yeah, so many dealers just expect it. They just expect
Exactly.
just to walk through the door, and you're not taking a hard, comprehensive look at your operations and don't realize that your experience might be poor. People are just going to slowly start not coming in, and then one might think that the simple answer is, oh, people aren't coming in, let's just boost up our Facebook ads. And then people will come in.
Yeah.
And it's just, wasted money at that point.
Things I always looked at was actually, even for a dealership, and this goes back to my automotive days, was for a store's repair orders for the month, what's the average model year that the store was working on? So a lot of stores base how busy they are based on perception. Oh, I feel like we're doing a lot of work. But a lot of that work could be just newer units that are lower in customer pay, a lot of warranty work. So they might be doing the same amount of repair orders. They might be, pushing a lot of people in and out, but really they're not working as efficiently as they should be. It's going to take roughly about the same amount of time to work on a $1,500 repair order as is a $250 repair order. You still have to write the bike up, do the inspection, do the work. So, if you had a choice between a 6-year-old bike and a 1-year-old bike, and the return on it was 5-fold, it just goes back to identifying those people and reaching out and asking for the business.
Yeah. Yeah. It's easy to stop. I wouldn't say stop caring about, but it's easy to stop remembering to contact somebody who hasn't bought from you in 2 years. It's like, well, they're not interested anymore, but they're the people who are going to bring in the biggest invoices. They're the ones that are most likely to trade. That's like the sweet spot of information. And you ask, and again, from our experience, you ask the staff to do it, and we can get them excited about it. We could even give them the tools to do it for a week, and they'll do it for a week, and then they're going to not do it consistently. So I think the exciting part is that this was for us. There was so many things that Danny and I needed to juggle and figure out to like keep the place going and just like moving in the right direction. And we still are. Trust me, it is still very much a lot of work going on in that place. And I don't think it'll ever stop. But for us to have at least one important piece and be able to just like entirely turn it over to you and just be like, okay, here's the keys, here's the API integration, do it.
Then it allows us to focus. So your job is getting the people in. I mean, that's a huge part. Another huge part, the other piece of the puzzle is not screwing up the experience as they get here.
Making them hate us.
And so
They came back.
being able to dump that, getting the people in off of our plates, it's a really freed us up to make sure that we're offering best possible experience.
Yeah.
And that's one of the first questions I generally ask of dealerships before we throw the proverbial switch is, can you handle the extra business?
Yeah.
Nothing is going to be worse than spending a lot of time and money to drive more people in to create a bad experience for them.
Exactly. Kind of like those seasonal swings that I was talking about in the training before, but we see it here. The most amount of your customers, right? The highest demand times is when your team is most overwhelmed. It's when you're most understaffed. It's when you're going to give the worst experience. Like that's just what's going to happen because you're overwhelmed. And the crazy part is that's when the most amount of customers see you at your worst.
Yeah.
It's like most customers aren't seeing you when you have the time, you have the right amount of staffing, and you have enough time to like contact them the right amount, communicate effectively. That's when you're slow and you're overstaffed for that moment. So you can give that experience. So you need, like, I try to convince stores to like, okay, you consistently reach out to customers throughout the entire year, not because I'm telling you, get more customers in when it's even busier. But if you're keeping the message going all the time, then customers aren't only thinking of you when the weather gets beautiful and, oh shit, I need my boat working now, or I need my motorcycle prepped right now. Instead, you were constantly relevant and you were talking to them. You're saying, hey, season's about to break, come on in. And like that messaging doesn't usually happen at the right time if you're depending upon the team that is subject to the seasonality. So you have to have consistency. And either that means a team member who can actually do it consistently or offload it to a company that automates and creates consistency across the entire year. And then your seasonality feels better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're all victims of process. And to your point is when we get busy, process is the first thing that goes out the door because we're just trying to survive. We're in survival mode.
Yep.
Just trying to keep our head above water and keep on paddling and all of the processes and all the good plans that we had in place just go out the window. And then when it slows down, then we go back to the process and
you go to
it should be there.
And you listen to a presentation about this thing and you go, why am I not doing that anymore? We did do that once. And then you kick it off again. But that's usually in the slow time. So actually, I want to bring it back to the actual like flipping of the switch. When we did it, we have Lizzie in this store, which is a great DMS, web-based DMS, works really well. We've used it in this location forever. Before it was called TBA, and I used it then when we first started in 2002. And so I bring that up because it's not the biggest player though. Lightspeed's number one with DX1's number two. Lizzie's somewhere down there, but it's good. You didn't have API integration to that. So literally we started this conversation. I was like, all right, let's start. Problem is you don't have my data. And Jeff, who is,
Jeff,
I know he's not even here. I mean, he had to figure out how to do it, but man, he knocked it out of the park. He was able to get all the API integration done and have us up and running within a couple of weeks. And then we start not only ingesting this data to communicate with customers, but it was even cooler to ingest this data to see like, what does our retention look like right now? Like instantly we were able to start to see some of the view of our customers. So what does onboarding look like with your Lightspeeds and now your Lizzies, the ones you're connected to, your DX1s, you're already done with those. But like if Marine is interested and you're like, well, we got to get I don't know, Team Marine on there. We got to get G2. What does that look like?
For the DMS systems that we have relationships with, so for Lightspeed, we're a Lightspeed 3PA partner. So it's almost within a day. We had the three stores that we onboarded last week were all DX1 stores, and
Wait. You
we're in need of
board
marketing.
those? You have already brought
D-
them and got them onboarded?
within a day. Within a day, we had the data downloaded. Now, for that's the start of the process. One of the things that, again, Jeff being just an absolute guru in what he does is there's a lot of data hygiene that's involved. You can imagine that for your average store, if they've been open for a few years, they might have a person in there, Mike, Michael, Mikey, MC,
Oh, yeah.
and the 7 bikes that I have. And if you're not going through and doing a really good job at that data hygiene, that cleaning, you're going to get 3 or 4 postcards, for different bikes in the same week.
That is right. I mean, that is actually a kind of a scary part of this. The data in most dealers isn't that clean. So you make sure
Yeah.
the messaging that's going out, that it's at the right time. Like, okay, they bought it under their formal name. It's Michael Skibbie, and they came in for service, and service checked them in as Mike Skibbie. And now it's like, did the unit change ownership? Did they not get their service done? So now we're telling this guy to do a service, but he really was just here. Like, is there a way to make that easy, or how does Jeff pull that off?
There's a lot of different data points that they compare. It could be the VIN number, the address, the name match. A lot of it's automated, but there's a lot that pretty much everything else that we're doing. Also, the last step of that QC is at least one, if not 2 or 3 people doing a manual perusal of that and making sure that it's good.
Making sure.
I won't speak to the brand, but my wife and I own the same type of car, and I get from the dealership. There's been times where I've gotten 3 postcards from the same dealership in the same week, and it's funny because this is the world we live in now. She lives in this too, and she's the one that's even the most critical. Like, she's like, "Look at this crap! Like, how could they be doing this?" I'm like, that's what's out there.
Yeah.
But it's tight. It's impressively tight. Again, getting more immersed in the data world, I'm impressed by the job that Jeff and his team do.
Yeah.
It's amazingly tight as far as just the QC to it. And I think that bleeds back into the reporting that we do, that we look at even the delivery reporting of some of our email stuff, that 99% is getting through firewall, spam blockers, some of it's science, and I think some of it's witchcraft at a certain point. I don't know how he does what he does, but it's impressive to look at things from a number standpoint and see just how clean things get. It's just to imagine going through all the different ISPs and making sure that 97 or so percent get through and get into an inbox to be read.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of work, a lot of process that they go through.
So right now, your communications, at least through this shop, are primarily email, and so you've got retention programs, another one called eValet, but you also do direct mail, which I guess is part of those other programs, right? Tell me.
Yeah, so we kind of put things in buckets of recurring programs. So a retention program, the eValet program really is kind of recurring because it's there. And then we do a lot of campaign type stuff. So we could do a campaign for, say, like a back to school special or promote a new model. So that'd be a one-off campaign. And the different touch points we have now, we have obviously direct mail, email blasts. We actually have a great call center. We're looking at potentially onboarding text messaging for certain things. So that kind of goes back to having different ways and different styles of communicating to people, that it doesn't go back to that just white noise. I always kind of refer to the Bed Bath and Beyond model, where we used to just get the same postcard in the mail, same looking postcard, 20% off. That after a certain point, you could wallpaper your wall with the postcards.
Yeah.
But we all did the same thing. It was the same thing every time. So you chuck it because you knew in a couple weeks you get the same thing So it just became white noise and you tune it out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, actually, I was talking to another dealer about direct mail, and his comment was like, "Oh man, that seems pretty old school," or as I would say, 2000 and late. I'm a big Fergie fan. So, but you and I were actually talking about it at MRA about like, hey, look, that is a perception that some people have of this direct mail. But then if you think about it, like, you know what, when an email comes into me, which you send us as well, when an email comes into me and I have an inbox of 150 emails that I'm overwhelmed by, and I'm just hitting a little checkbox to figure out all the ones I'm going to mass delete, right? I'm going to see just the name of the store and go, they're trying to sell me something. Nah, I'm going to go right over it. Like I'm less likely to even see any of the offer or the images or any of the stuff that might draw any attention or any time at all. But you send me a mailer, even if it is Bed Bath and Beyond or like the weird Shades of Light magazine that I get of light bulbs and shit for some odd reason. Like that thing for some reason stays on my counter for a while. And
At least have to look at it and see if you need to shred it.
exactly. So I'm like, well, what are they trying to? At least I'm spending more time doing that. And then the quality of the ones that you guys print out, which I've got a couple of them here, but the quality of what you guys print out, which you've shown me the competition, like it's nice. It's like so nice. And I'm like, I wouldn't want to throw this away.
Shred this.
It's like, oh man, but it's got like cool motorcycles on it. Shit, I love it. It's like, it's going to be up on the wall up here in the studio. So yeah, it actually took me as a savvy-ish person to say like, I'm surprised mailers are still a thing. And then realizing, oh my God, I actually use mail. Like I look at them more. I actually I enjoy receiving something in the mail. As long as it's not a bill.
Right. And you look at different studies and surveys and stuff, and the population that direct mail is really gaining strength with is millennials and Gen Y, because they see it almost as validation.
Yeah.
Because everything else that they do is in the digital world. So getting a piece of mail addressed to them in the mail, it actually resonates very well with the newer crowd.
It's around more.
It would be totally counterintuitive to what you'd think, but
yeah,
direct mail works with the TikTok generation.
Hey,
Sorry, Dan.
on the TikTok.
Yeah, I don't have a TikTok.
Neither do I.
I've got a TikTok. That's the problem. Let's talk about TikTok now. All right. So there was something else I wanted to cover.
Didn't mean for this to just be a full on us loving CRC commercial.
No, I really,
But
no.
I mean, it's exciting.
Wait, there's more.
Big word.
I think the one of the things I want to make sure that we get across in this is that CRC, that tool, the platform that CRC has, that allows us to look into the customer base and like actually see that customers are coming back in now, to be able to see how our CSI score is affected over time. Like, I feel like if we are the lab, like I mentioned before, we need to have an unbiased third party way of saying, did this actually make a difference? Like, did people hate this new concept? Like, we're talking about these crazy ass ideas of like, okay, what would it look like if the guy that sold you the motorcycle was also the guy that checked you in for service? That sounds crazy. It sounds totally impossible based on the software and the technology and all that stuff. And it might be impossible. It might be the dumbest thing we'll ever do, but we're not going to know until we like give it a shot and we try it out. And if we try it out, does it make more money? That's one piece, which, great. Did the customers like it? Is it going to get them to come back more? Is it going to communicate more effectively? Like that's the piece that I'm really excited to be able to turn back to Mike, which is why I think this is kind of the first meeting of having Mike here. It's going to be, okay, Mike, interpret this data for us. What do you think it looks like? So I want you to come back, not just because of that, but yeah, I do think people are going to be like, oh shit, Mike can do that. What's not?
I might come back in 6 months and say, hey, remember all those great reviews that we had? Well, it all went to shit. Some better reading.
Yeah. Nobody stuff you're doing.
I think the mindset that you guys bring to the table is exactly the reason why our relationship changed from me just coming in and being your marketing partner to, I think the relationship has really turned into a really solid partnership based on the great ideas that you guys have and have implemented at the store.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that we've learned and are learning, and I think we'll continue to learn, from the CRC side, from the ideas and the actions and processes that you've put into play. And I think they parallel really well based on just the passion and the ownership and the entrepreneurship that you guys have brought to the table, which as you can see, I mean, it's provided a 180-degree turnaround for Moto Julia. So, we want part of that secret sauce too.
Yeah, of course. We want to make sure that we can help dealers maximize their returns that you're bringing to them.
For sure.
That's the whole thing.
And I think that's, it's that account ownership and support that I think is lacking in business today, that vested partnership that I don't think, frankly, you see too much anymore.
Yeah.
And just the passion and that partnership that you bring to your customers, whether it's your dealership customers or, and your consulting that you're doing, definitely there's a lot of parallels. I think that make this such a good partnership.
Yeah.
Do you have issues with like how often do you work with a dealer and they just sign up because it's co-op through BMW or whatever, and they just don't recognize its value, or they their dealership operation doesn't match the value that you're bringing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sadly, there's a handful, and for me personally, it's frustrating because like I always try and figure out what people's drivers are, what are they getting up and what's important to them in the morning that pushes them out of bed and through their workday. For me, if I'm going to get out of bed, if I'm going to step on an airplane to visit somebody, or I want to make sure that I'm making a difference, that I'm moving the needle, that I'm successful and helping my customers be successful. And sometimes it's hard to not have that energy match, I guess, from dealers that may not see it, and that's where sometimes I struggle with that. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. I think sometimes that may be some of the difference between maybe the automotive world and the power sports world, where I think the power sports and boat dealers are enthusiasts. And I think sometimes they're more enthusiasts and they're more passionate about the industry rather than being business owners. I think that's where there's a bit of a disconnect, that it's cool being around bikes and boats and talking about them and going riding and stuff. But, at the end of the day, you have to keep the lights on and you have to, do the right things to be a business owner. And that's part of, with our name, Chester River Consulting. At the end of the day, we want to be consultants and help them become healthier business owners. And we can ride bikes and we can go boating and stuff like that. But, the bottom line dictates, how much
business. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. We were standing around at the bar after MRAA, like with all the dealers and everything. And before Mike and I ran into each other, we were texting. It's like, yeah, how about we we can stop by for a little bit. We'll grab some dinner afterwards. Then we get there. It's like, man, everybody's way cooler over here than in auto. And like, yeah, I mean, we're not just all cutthroat, just doing business, selling widgets because that's the widgets that make us the most money. It's like, we actually all want to be here. We're all really excited about doing the thing. We need some help in how to make the business as efficient and effective.
For sure. And it is such a night and day difference between the enthusiasm and the passion for what they do.
Yeah.
It's night and day. I mean, with the automotive business, they're business people first and foremost. And it is cutthroat. If you're a general manager or a service director in an automotive dealership or group, you're as good as your last month or two numbers.
Yep.
And, you're going to do anything and everything to move that needle, and you're going to flip vendors, you're going to change people, because that's the world they live in.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely a happy medium.
For sure.
Well, I know we're going to see you in person again at AIM. You're going to be out there, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You're not doing a booth this year, are you?
We're not doing a booth this year. We're going to be saving up for a booth for next year's MRA event.
Nice. Good. Well, we'll be there too. Also, no booths, just walking around. So we'll be hanging out. I'm sure if there's any dealers out there that want to know more about Mike, you can probably find it there. But what are other ways that people can get in touch with you to ask more questions, to figure out if this is right for them? How do they do that?
Our website is fueledbycrc.com.
Which manufacturers are y'all partnered with? Is it just BMW?
Just Motorrad right now is the only real exclusive, but we're working on, we're actually just about done our integration with Talon.
Yeah.
So we are going to be off to the races with Harley Davidson
Hell
pretty
yeah.
soon,
Nice.
which is going to be a wild ride for sure.
Yeah.
And then we've actually started approaching some boat manufacturers as well. So
Good.
Cool.
Good.
So definitely BMW, Harley dealers.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I know BMW, actually one of the reasons why it was so easy to start here, BMW co-ops like everything. How much of our program was done by them?
So after sales for BMW contributes 50%, which isn't even part of the co-op budget. So that is pretty much, off the top. And then some of the other stuff we do is 50% co-op from the sales and marketing side.
Yeah. And they submit
Cool.
the co-op on our behalf. So we didn't have to do anything. It was
Beautiful.
just like, oh, sweet. Bill's cheaper. Thank you. I have so many other places to spit in. I can't think about that. So yeah.
Exactly. That's one of the things that we try and do. And that's one of the mandates I always have for our team is just make it easy on the dealers.
Yeah.
All the points of pain that dealers hate doing, co-op submission and reimbursement, building out the programs, we try and make it as easy as possible, knowing that, just like you and Danny, you're running around with your hair on fire, wearing several different hats. Last thing you want to be doing is doing a co-op submission or going through and building your own marketing initiatives or, trying to use Photoshop to do an email or, direct mail campaign.
Yeah, that's very true. We have all sorts of great ideas on what we want to have done. And then the actual day comes when we need to do it. We're like, I don't have the opportunity. And so it's been nice to have, your team reach out and be like, hey, so I went ahead and made this for you. Is this what you were thinking? Like, oh my God, yes, thank you. Just launch it. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. My team is awesome. They are so proactive. I mean, there's points I'm sure they've done to you where they've gone on your website and looked at aged inventory or leftovers or something, put together a campaign and said, hey, here's what I saw. There's $8,000 off of that model, and I put that together for you. You want it to go out. It's awesome.
Yeah, and like here's the targeted audience that I think it should go. Like all
the data.
It is a marketing partner. It's like not just I'm paying this company, and if I don't reach out to them, then I don't get any value out of it. It's like you guys are doing a great job of proving your worth in this store, and not just proving it because we're like, oh, they call us a lot, but like we could go on the platform and see we made this much more money on customers that weren't coming around. So it's cool.
Well, we don't have any long-term agreement. So, I mean, if we don't wow everybody month to month, then, it's a cancellation waiting to happen. And my wife likes really expensive wine. So we need all the revenue coming in.
Good, man. Oh, that's great. Well, look, thanks so much for being on the show. Thanks for being a partner with us too. This has been really fun. And it's been cool to not only see that what you're doing is successful, but, selfishly, it proves that the concept that we had been working on for so long actually does move the needle. Like it really is a thing. And it turns out you don't have to just do it on your own because you do it. So it helps.
Been a cool ride working with you too. And I'm really excited to see what's coming in the future and share ideas and partner with you. And I think it'll be great to see, to your point, the results of your initiatives that you're putting into place.
Yep, absolutely. All right. So if you're interested, visit fueledbycrc.com. Is that right?
That's correct.
That's the one. Awesome. Thank you, Mike, so much for being on the show. And
Thank you.
talk real soon.